Hello, hello, testing. Okay, that's working. And this should also be working any moment. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so today we're once again going to be covering Tropical Storm Wipha, also known as Crising, in the Philippines, which could also deliver major impacts potentially in portions of Guangdong, China, Guangxi, China, as well as parts of Laos and parts of Vietnam over the next 4 to 5 days. So let's, and also we'll talk about the Signal 2 warnings in effect for the northern parts of Luzon, and also about the orange and yellow alerts, with the yellow alert in Metro Manila. Again, if you are watching this after the video goes live, you can always ask questions in the comments, and I will gladly answer them in the next update. And if you are watching it live, you can ask the questions in the comments, and I will gladly answer. I'm going to share this stream to the Discord server. Just in case they'd like to see it. Alright. Alright, let's get into it. So if we take a look at the unofficial threat level map of potential impacts over the next 5 days, we can see that there are a lot of areas that could see at least marginal impacts and a lot of areas that could see slight to moderate impacts over the next 5 days. Taking a look at the marginal impacts, there's a broad area of marginal impacts for the western part of the Philippines, mainly including Luzon. There's a marginal impacts for most of Taiwan, parts of the coast of China, including Fujian, Guangdong, Guangxi, and then we have portions of Vietnam, and then portions of Myanmar as well, all in that marginal impact, including Laos and Thailand. All in that marginal impact, mostly a majority of it is going to be rainfall as the main threat, although some areas could experience it in the form of wind as well. Taking a look at the impacts for slight impacts, we can see that again it's a majority of the western half of Luzon, as well as parts of southeastern Taiwan. These are a majority of rain impacts. And if we take a look again at Fujian, Guangdong, and Guangxi, China, again slight impacts there, moving into Vietnam, and into Myanmar as well, with a secondary pocket of slight impacts happening along the Myanmar peninsula down there, or that little leg that extends down southwards. And then also continues east again towards parts of northern Thailand, northern Laos, and northern Vietnam, and then again in parts of Hainan Island. These are a majority of rainfall impacts. But looking towards the main area of Guangdong, the southern coast, this was more so a wind threat. If it goes more to the north, then they could experience potentially upwards of typhoon force winds. And if we take a look at the moderate impacts, we see it is for portions of the west coast of the Philippines, mainly Luzon. And we can see that, and this is again mostly rainfall, the threat level has decreased over the past day or so, as the system has already dumped a large portion of rainfall, but continued flooding is possible. And then we can see again a moderate level threat level of impacts along Guangdong, Guangxi, and then parts of Vietnam and Laos over the next 5 days, and another pocket for parts of Myanmar and parts of far southwestern Thailand. These are a majority of rainfall impacts, although some of these impacts will be in the form of wind, mainly in this circled area right here. Mainly due to the fact that the system is likely to become a typhoon before making landfall, so there could be typhoon force winds in portions of the cone. Right. So now taking a look at the area that could experience major impacts. We see that it's a portion of the far southwestern portion of Guangdong province, the far southern coast of Guangxi province. We have portions of northern Vietnam and parts of northeastern Laos, all in this corridor of potential possibility of major impacts, again, mainly in the form of rainfall over the next 4 to 5 days, mainly to actually the next 2 to 5 days, as the system begins to slow down. It could dump heavy rainfall, upwards of 500 millimeters in some areas. Taking a look at the global tropics, though, we can see that there's a lot going on across the world. We, of course, have Tropical Storm Wipha over here by the Philippines moving into the South China Sea. But we also have two other disturbances, one with a 50% chance by Taiwan and one with a 20% by the Northern Mariana Islands over the next 7 days. We also have a land depression over India, which is continuing to propagate westwards. It should dissipate, though, over the next 2 or so days. We also have the remnants of O1S over here in the southwest Indian Ocean. It should dissipate over the coming days. Looking into the Atlantic, we have two disturbances here. We have one, which is a tropical wave, which could develop over the next 48 hours to 5 days as it moves westwards towards the Leeward Islands. Conditions should be unfavorable, though, by the time it reaches the either the Windward or Leeward Islands. There is also a disturbance here, which is the remnants of 93L, which may try to develop in these same exact regions. Just something to keep an eye on, around a 10% chance. We have an Eastern Pacific disturbance here, which could develop over the next 3 days, and another one which could develop within the next 7 days. We are currently in code pink for Tropical Storm Wipha, which is why we're doing a lot of coverage on it. Alright, now before we get into the main parts of it, if you do like this coverage, you can always like the stream or like the video if you're watching it afterwards, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already to stay up to date. So let's take a look at the satellite imagery. I did not set this up, sorry about that, of Tropical Storm Wipha. As we can see, the low-level circulation is starting to creep out of the convection of those main thunderstorms, showing that it might be slightly weaker than we initially thought. The system is likely a moderate to severe tropical storm at this time. It is very broad, as we can see here. Thunderstorms happening well outside of the center, impacting the northern half of the Philippines, most of Taiwan here, and even portions of the coast of China, and a large portion of the South China Sea as well. But yes, we can see how broad the circulation is, going all the way up to Fujian province, the northern tip of that, even going in towards the coast of Vietnam here. Very broad circulation. Then we can see as we get closer to the center, it is a very tight and fast circulation. Let's take a look at the infrared satellite imagery of this storm. So we can see it is very healthy convection on the southern side. It has waned slightly, and that's why we are seeing that center now start to be slightly exposed. But yes, as well, you can see the thunderstorms moving in towards Taiwan, and we have the rain bands impacting northern Luzon, the Babuan group of islands, and a bit of a clearing for the Batanes Islands as of right now. Taking a look at the latest scatterometer passes of Tropical Storm Wipha. Doesn't seem like it's updated, but this supported roughly winds of around 60 to 65 miles an hour. But yes, we can see again there's that broad circulation and strong winds happening well outside of the center. And let's actually take a look at radar imagery of this system. If I can find it, there it is. Here's a look at the latest radar imagery of this storm, and we can see that there is a heavy band of, a band of heavy rain now moving towards Taiwan. We can see it right over here, moving inland. But yes, this will likely produce flash flooding as it moves inland, and if it trains over the same area, that's where you can get the really considerable flash flooding. But overall, we can see the band right here to the southeast portion of the circulation. Thankfully, that's moved mostly away from the Philippines, but light rain is impacting the northwestern coast or northwestern portion of Luzon. We can see again, though, light rain impacting portions of China. But again, the main impacts right now are happening over eastern Taiwan, mainly actually the majority of Taiwan. If we take a look at wind shear over the next few days, we can see that it is expected to be slightly higher, um, mainly off towards the south portion of the system, and that's what's making it so broad and will continue to impact the Philippines over the coming days. But as it enters towards the Gulf of Tonkin, there could see a relaxation of shear, and then eventually it becomes hostile by the time it moves inland over southeastern Asia. Now, if we take a look at this system, I'm curious if it does have a cone here. Nope. Okay. I was just checking. Anyways, oh no, this is out of date. Excuse me. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up. Pull it up off stream, and then I'll pull it up on here. Alright, here is Tropical Storm Wipha, right over here. Let me turn off the forecast of it. Its center is roughly located here. If we take a look at the current wind shear it is facing, it is slightly stronger than we initially thought, and that's why the center is starting to become more exposed as the wind shear pushes those thunderstorms off to the south, trying to prevent it from strengthening, which is some good news. Although if this upper level anticyclone, which is basically just creating a pocket of low wind shear, if they start pairing up together, we could see more rapid intensification happen out of this. But again, we see that the shear is quite strong everywhere, really, and that's why the Philippines are in a slight to moderate threat level. If we take a look at sea surface temperatures over here, we can see that where it's forecasted to go, the waters are plentiful in terms of their warmth. Water temperatures of around 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. We can see that there's even more warmth in the Gulf of Tonkin, temperatures of up to 31 degrees Celsius. There is a possibility this thing intensifies even further in the Gulf of Tonkin. It's not impossible for storms to do that. And if we take a look at the oceanic heat content, it does get quite less, but the problem is this only really is a factor if the storm stalls, which if it were to stall, it'd most likely stall in the Gulf of Tonkin or already over land, so the oceanic heat content doesn't matter that much. Again, if you have any questions, leave them in the stream and I'll answer them towards the end of this update, just so that way I can give an update to those watching this after it goes live. Now, if we take a look at the distance it is away from land masses, it is now roughly around 200 to 300 kilometers away from the Philippines, roughly around 200 kilometers away from Taiwan, roughly 600 kilometers away from Hong Kong, around 900 kilometers away from Hainan Island, around 900 kilometers away from Guangxi, roughly around 1,300 kilometers away from Vietnam, roughly 1,500 kilometers away from Laos, roughly 1,900 kilometers away from Thailand, and roughly 2,000 kilometers away from Myanmar. Oh, and speaking again of the forecast here, we have it as a typhoon over the next 12 to 24 hours, and then still as a typhoon as we go into the 36 to 48 hour range, before gradually weakening, almost being a typhoon in the Gulf of Tonkin before then making landfall. The system will gradually weaken to a tropical depression and remnant low, but we could see some development possible in the Bay of Bengal, and that's why there's also a very slight to moderate threats level of impacts in Myanmar. Anyways, going onwards now towards the forecasted wind shear. I already generally showed this. If we take a look at the European run, though, the latest European run of the system, it has it becoming a typhoon before grazing the coast of Hong Kong and Guangxi provinces before entering into the Gulf of Tonkin, where it could strengthen and actually reach a peak as a typhoon there before moving inland to Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and then Myanmar, before potentially redeveloping in the Bay of Bengal. We can also see the other two disturbances. It has somewhat downtrended on the disturbance by Taiwan, but it also shows something developing by the Northern Mariana Islands. If we take a look at the latest Canadian run, this system has it slightly weaker, and it does have it moving slower. And it does mainly because it strengthens this disturbance potentially almost to a typhoon near Taiwan, which could act to kind of pull the system, lower the steering currents really. And it also has this other disturbance forming near the Northern Mariana Islands, something we'll have to watch. If we take a look at the latest German run, we can see this system has it, or this model has it becoming a typhoon, potentially reaching a peak before striking just near Hong Kong, before moving inland as a tropical storm or tropical depression. Not showing as much support on that other disturbance, mainly just staying very broad. Now taking a look at the latest ensembles here. These are the European ensembles. They show it moving in towards Hong Kong over the next 36 hours or so, before then moving inland towards Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand again. Also showing something developing in the North Indian Ocean there, likely the remnants of this disturbance, or this tropical storm Wipha. Also, though, it's showing decent support of something developing near Taiwan, and then showing some support of something near the Northern Mariana Islands. If we take a look at this forecast here, we can see there's a general consensus of where it's going to go. It shows some ensembles showing the next disturbance potentially becoming a typhoon, and then showing a couple of ensembles showing that next disturbance near the Northern Mariana Islands. Looking at the American ensembles, again, the system has it more south, and then potentially getting dragged back due to this disturbance. Again, just it's uncertain. This model typically overdoes things, so it's quite uncertain. Again, here's a look at the latest ensembles here, courtesy of Depaya. If we see the system moves westwards, may move into the Gulf of Tonkin, and then some ensembles have it curve right back out because of this right here. It's a mess. We're not quite sure if it will form or how strong it will get. Mainly the ensembles that has this becoming a typhoon or major typhoon are the ones that drag this back out. Now let's talk impacts. If we take a look at the rainfall threat that the system will cause over the next 5 days or so. Here's a look at the European estimates of rainfall over the next 5 days. We have a large portion of 400 millimeters plus happening along the west coast of Luzon and down here. And I don't know where that is, excuse me, sorry. 400 millimeters of rain there, roughly 200 millimeters of rain, additional rainfall possible in portions of Metro Manila. And then taking a look at Taiwan, rainfall totals of upwards of 200 to 300 millimeters. Hong Kong gets a little bit more lucky with around 100 millimeters. Then there's rainfall totals of 500 to 600 millimeters offshore in the Gulf of Tonkin. Hopefully that stays over the water and not over land. But portions of Vietnam could get 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall. Portions of Laos, upwards of 400 to 500 millimeters. Thailand gets a little bit luckier. Only around 300 millimeters, but then Myanmar gets another portion of 400 to 500 millimeters of rainfall. That is the European run. If we take a look at the American run, this is nightmare fuel for portions of northwestern Luzon, having rainfall totals of upwards of 800 millimeters of rain over the next 5 days. That would be catastrophic flooding. Really hoping that doesn't come true. And it's mainly caused by this other disturbance here. If we take a look actually at the latest GFS run, American run on the system, yeah, it's mainly because of that secondary disturbance that it has lots of rain there. It's unlikely to happen, but it is something to just keep an eye on as the worst case scenario. Upwards of 200 millimeters of rain in Metro Manila, 300 millimeters on the east coast of Taiwan, 300 millimeters for portions of Hainan Island, a good consensus of around 200 to 300 millimeters for Hong Kong, Guangdong and Guangxi provinces of China, roughly around 300 millimeters of rainfall in Vietnam, 200 millimeters in portions of Laos, only around 100 to 200 millimeters for portions of Thailand, and upwards of 400 millimeters in portions of Myanmar. Speaking of which, it looks like the American run tries to form the disturbance in the Bay of Bengal as well. As we can see, though, it does have that other system by the Northern Mariana Islands potentially becoming a typhoon. Just something to keep an eye on. Oh, and taking a look at the German run, this is another possibility, only really showing around under 200 millimeters of rainfall happening in portions of Luzon, only around 100 millimeters of rain in Metro Manila, roughly around 100 to 200 in Taiwan, only around 400 near Hong Kong and Guangxi provinces, showing upwards of 900 to 1,000 millimeters of rain, like a lot of rain in portions of the Gulf of Tonkin. That is a possibility. There's a lot of fuel for this system to spawn in constant thunderstorms, showing upwards of around even 500 to 600 millimeters of rain happening in the southern coast of Guangxi province, China. General consensus of 200 to 300 millimeters in Vietnam, and lesser totals in southeastern Asia. Now, if we go to the latest Pegasa forecast of this system, I'll refresh it just in case. Anyways, here's their latest update on the disturbance. They have it, or tropical storm Crising. It is expected to exit the Philippine area of responsibility by around noon. So over the next hour or so, and then become a severe tropical storm, potentially a typhoon, scraping the coast of Guangdong and Guangxi provinces before entering the Gulf of Tonkin, weakening as a tropical storm. Signal 2 warnings are still in effect for portions of northern Luzon, the Babuan group of islands, and the Batanes Islands. If we take a look at the heavy rainfall warning number 14, we have an orange alert for Zambales and Bataan, and yellow alerts for other portions of Luzon, including Metro Manila. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's answer some questions on this tropical storm, excuse me. Squira says, will it be a Category 2? Anything's really possible with this disturbance. I don't think it will, though. Just considering the shear it's facing right now. Likely, a high-end scenario would be a high-end Cat 1. Low-end scenario would be a high-end tropical storm. Category 2 is possible, though. Square asks, why does that part of Myanmar in Thailand have moderate impacts? Well, the moisture plume of this system is so broad that by the time this disturbance, moves over towards roughly around Laos and then Thailand, Myanmar is going to get this constant motion of wind moving inland there, or of rainfall moving inland, and that will create a problem of flooding. So that's why they are listed in those moderate impacts. Showed earlier upwards of 400 millimeters of rainfall are possible, so that's why. Yeah, it's mainly rainfall. Flooding, landslides. Square asks, how bad will the storm surge be in Vietnam? I'm not quite sure about storm surge impacts. If they have great elevation there, then they should be fine. Maybe some bad storm surge. Really all along this coast over here, if the storm decides to move in this fashion, surge will be impacting all these areas, really. But if there's great elevation, then you should be fine. Yes, flooding is a problem. Let's see. Jekka TV asks, do Western Pacific systems have an unfavorable condition? Are they unfavorable for development? Well, if we take a look at something which basically is going to show us the overall pattern across the world for tropical development. As we can see here, there is a good pocket of rising air, which is helping to promote all these disturbances form. If you can see, there's a good amount of sinking air over the main development region, this whole area, that's been suppressing most of the activity in the Atlantic. We have this rising air over the eastern Pacific, which is allowing for a disturbance to try and develop there. But yes, it's going to remain this way for quite some time in the Western Pacific. If we take a look at ensembles, these are the American ensembles, generally showing that, but then possibly propagating eastwards by the end or by early August. With European ensembles, if we take a look at the 12Z run, showing generally the same solution. Oh, yeah, and this is the pocket of rising air for this disturbance. Anyways, I hope that answers your question for that. Shelby says, my parents are on vacation on Cagayan, though. Let's see. Cagayan is in a signaled 1 to 2 warning currently right now. If we take a look at the rainfall threat, it shouldn't be that bad. Oh, dang, I thought that this had borders. Okay, that makes it a little bit more difficult to show. Oh, I think it's the radar that does. I thought it was something like this. Can't really see where the provinces are. I thought it did. Oh, it might have been this website actually. No, I'm not sure. I thought it showed it. But anyways, rainfall. Or if we take a look at the general threat graphic, though, only really marginal impacts at worst, just in the form of rainfall. Jekka TV asks, did Wipha form an eye? If we take a look at the radar imagery, right over here, the reason for this is because it has this huge band off to the southeastern side and another large band off the northeastern side. Not really an eye. The reason we can tell that is that naked circulation is running outside of all those thunderstorms due to wind shear. You can see it happening right over here. So it's not an eye, it's just a clear slot there. Shear is pushing all those thunderstorms away from that center. Typhoon Lover CeeLo asks, will this leave the Philippine area of responsibility today? It is possible, or sorry, it is likely to do that. It might already be doing that as we speak. The Philippine area of responsibility is, where is that? I don't know where exactly it is on this map. If I take a look at the forecast, though, okay, it ends beyond 120 east there, so it should be doing that right around now. Shelby says, water is very warm in the Western Pacific. Indeed it is. Jekka TV says, Eastern Pacific is already awakening again. Yep. If you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll ask them. Here. Hello everyone. Binking Bong says, how often do you upload on HCC Extra? I have not uploaded on that channel in like over a year, and I don't really plan to. Mainly focusing on my attention on this channel. Which again, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. We are almost at 2.5 thousand subscribers. Wow. Okay, just 12 away from that. We have 7 people watching right now. If you all aren't subscribed, that would get us pretty close. Fruit says big storm. Yes, it is. It is very broad. And thankfully, wind isn't as much of a concern. So not anything about structural damage. Mainly flooding is the concern, though, for these big monsoonal systems. Something I am curious about, a question that I'd ask, is what about the system, or when it moves into the Bay of Bengal? We can see a lot of ensembles here showing development here into some sort of monsoonal system before then moving westwards. And if we take a look at the European AI model here, showing the vorticity that the system is expected to have, it moves inland, becomes a broad circulation, then pairs up with this other disturbance, and then eventually develops and then move in towards India. Again, though, we had 2 depressions going on at the same time here. I'm going to save this as an image. Just because I find that quite fascinating, though, two land depressions at the same time, and we could then get a third one eventually that moves through. I'm curious though the difference in the tightness of those circulations. If I take a look at the one before it, and just curious to see how great that circulation actually was. Wasn't that great? It seems like this the second one was stronger. Okay, just a question I had. Bingy Bonk says if Wipha leaves the Philippine area of responsibility, will Pagasa stop making track maps for the storm? I am not sure. I think they would stop because I mean it's not their area of responsibility. Again, I will continue to try to do my best to provide updates, most likely daily updates on the system. May even do a live stream when it makes its landfall, potentially a landfall. Interesting to see, though, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center had their cone much farther south. The disturbance, though, does appear to be slightly more north than what they forecasted, so not quite sure how that cone will ultimately turn out. Generally, though, moving towards Hong Kong. I don't think that they're going to be completely out of the clear. Remember, though, this cone is just showing where the center could go. This color graphic shows where the impacts could be. I'm going to check if Twitter, if anyone asks any questions there. Twitter is sometimes very annoying. I can't really see the chat stuff there. Okay, I can see it on that. No, nobody asked any questions on Twitter. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Did not want to miss any questions from there. Oh, and if you don't already, you can always follow me on Twitter, X, Facebook. If I pull up this graphic again, and you can also join my Discord server. But my Twitter or X is at hurricane_chase. Discord.gg/ chases storm. If you want to join that Discord server. In fact, I'll leave the link in the chat here if you'd like to join. Or hold on, I'm gonna actually get the full link on it. I don't know if this would work. Here's another link if you want to try and join the Discord server. We're almost at 1,000 members. But again, if you have any questions, you can let me know in the chat and I will gladly answer. And if you like these kind of thumbnails that I've been making and these kind of updates that I've been making, I might actually try and do this more often internationally as well. I did want to ask you though if any of you are watching from the Philippines. I know that some of you are. If you, or what was I gonna say? Like what time works best for you for watching these streams? I'm probably gonna do a poll on YouTube. Asking that because I'd like to know when's the best time to do these kind of live streams for you all. Bingy Bonk asks, how old are you? I am 18 and I'm still doing these updates. Well, it's been years. But now I'm trying to do these more informative formats of updates. So looking at a potential live stream though for a landfall, yeah, the cone has shifted south. It could make landfall earliest as tomorrow, or hold on, sorry, my time on tomorrow nightish. Okay, I am gonna have to animate though tomorrow, just something I need to keep in mind. If anyone has any suggestions on what storm they'd like me to animate, in terms of like recent storms, let's see, what storms have we had? I'm gonna look at this off stream. my analysis thing. If you want to see Nari, if you want to see O8W, if you want to see maybe Flossie, maybe Chantal, maybe Barry, just let me know in the chat there, and I will pick out what name I see the most. Bing Game Bong 12 says, I'm in Australia and the time here is basically the same as the Philippines. Yep. Um, with that, about that, when because those are the people who most often watch my updates. When I am doing an update around that time, it's also, of course, the opposite as my time. So I mean, there's just so much competition in the United States. I like to help out areas that there's less resources, like less sources of information available. So it's easier for me to help you all get stay up to date. The storm isn't recent, but could you do Cyclone Ned? I'm gonna see what that storm is. Cyclone Ned, 1988, or and it seems like it moved out to sea. I don't think I'd animate that exactly. I'm talking about more so storms that happened like recently over the past week or two, because there's a lot to choose from, but not really an obvious choice. So like if you want to see Barry, Chantal, uh, just like Barry, Chantal, or Flossie, or what other storms? O8W, and my mouse disappeared. Okay, that's a problem. I don't know why this happens, but this makes it so difficult. Like, imagine just not having a mouse or a cursor pointer thing, so I don't know where I'm clicking. Um, oh, this is difficult. I don't know why this happens. Come on, work. Ah, there we go. Anyways, I'll probably yeah, I'm gonna look at the if there's any other questions, any other suggestions. Gaming with Trippin H says the rain and wind here in Lingadeng, Abra is so strong, even Wipha is moving out. Yeah, I mean they're like very broad. Like this is a very broad storm, so impacts are happening well outside of the center of it. But again, though, if you want to pick out what storm for me to animate, you can just leave it in the chat. Oh yes, my mouse is back. Okay. I don't know why it was doing that. And again, if you have any questions of international storms, you can also ask that as well. Mainly like storms that are going on right now or disturbances happening over the next few days, maybe in a week or so. I really need to come up with like a plan this year on how I'll be streaming in terms of, like what uh, code level makes me do how many streams, how long they are, all that kind of stuff. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, then I will end the stream here. Again, just a broad overview. We have marginal impacts for a large portion of southeastern Asia, mainly in the form of rain, and then this big corridor over here, or this thin corridor of major, or of a possibility of major impacts. Just something to keep an eye on. There will likely be an update tomorrow as well by the time it's making landfall, or just right after landfall. I may do a live stream at landfall, of course, if it is a Category 1. There we go, we have a question. Is it possible that Wipha survives in the Bay of Bengal? Yes, it is. If we take a look at the Euro AI run here, it shows the disturbance or the remnants of Wipha moving through Vietnam, then Laos, then Thailand, then Myanmar, and then eventually combining with another disturbance in the Bay of Bengal, which basically they help tighten each other's vortex there. Then they consolidate into one, and then potentially becomes a disturbance that moves over India. So just something to keep an eye on, as we've had two other disturbances. We could see another one. Yep, and there it is, right there. And again, one of the reasons why this is going to be a problem for Myanmar again is we have these low pressure areas, which is just funneling the wind towards the southern portion of Myanmar, funneling like thunderstorms there, just keeping them inland. Nick says, thank you and good night, Chase. You as well. But yeah, I mean, you're right when you said that will be a rare occurrence. We've just had this frequently with Yagi last year. But again, though, this is just the overall threat level of impacts. Again, there will likely be an update tomorrow, unless something major happens and then I need to stream earlier. Yes, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.